Again, picking up where we left off, game three now, between Nigel Short and Boris Gulko in the PCA World Championship qualifier match that took place in New York City, actually in the Trump Towers in 1994. I forgot to mention that actually, if you look at the thumbnail closely, you'll see three people in there. You'll see the two players sitting at the board, and you'll see a man in between. That's Donald Trump. He actually made the first move since it was actually played in the Trump Towers. He made the first move for the chess game. So it's very interesting. And the World Championship match between Viswanathan Anand and Gary Kasparov in 1999 was played also um, uh, in New York City. So a lot of stuff was going on in the Big Apple at the time, and it's just interesting. Like, you never know what the future is going to be. You see, you never know. Okay, no matter what you think, not to get in the big political thing, but just okay, this guy right here is going to be the president. You know, in the next 20 25 years or whatever. So you never know. Who you shake hands with today. They might be somebody famous or infamous, down the road. But anyway, back to chess. So here's game two. Nigel Short was playing a decent game, got in a real uncomfortable position versus the experienced veteran Boris Gulko, and this eventually led to him making a one move blunder, and I really think it was because of the position just looked so weird and random from the black side that he just couldn't figure out a way, and then his mind went haywire for a second, and he just had a stunning oversight. So now Short has the white pieces, Gulko the black pieces. So e4, c6, as I told you in the first video, Caro-Kann all the way for Boris Gulko, in the same variation would appear on the board. Now, another interesting fact is that Nigel would often play the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann, but he would switch back and forth. He would play knight c3 or the advanced, but it seems for this match, he just wanted to stick with knight c3. And so this same variation would appear on the board. And again, it's basically just so that black can play knight to f6 without ruining his pawn structure. So we see that Gulko is a very principled, solid player. And if you looked at the white game, you see how he played with the white pieces. Played the English, very solid position, kind of reverse Sicilian, played on the queen side. So it's very hard to get him into complications. Very solid player. Nigel is more aggressive. So we're going to see his attempts to deal with the Caro-Kann. So knight gf6, knight g5. Again, one of the points is you don't want to trade pieces. Player with the cramped position. So we see right off the bat, white has more space. This is what the price black has to play for his solidity in a position. Yes, he's very solid, perfect pawn structure, but he allows white more space. Okay, and black would love to trade off a pair of minor pieces, or even two pairs, just to relieve the cramp in a position. So this is one of the ideas behind the move, knight g5, besides the direct checkmate attempt at f7 with the bishop. Not allowing trades. e6, queen e2, knight b6, challenging the bishop, bishop b3, h6, and knight just comes right back. a5, what are you going to do with that bishop on b3? c3, so very solid. c5, opting for some counterplay. Now this move to me is double-edged. Of course you would like to play c5 as black, but a5 and c5 is that mix. I don't really like that mix too much positionally, because you can see the b5 square is weak and b6. I think you probably would like to have that pawn back on a7 at this point. But again, is black lost or anything? No, but it's still like kind of positional defect that can rear its head later. a3, queen c7, knight h3. Now at the time, this is an improvement. Remember, this is the pre-engine era. So this is an improvement over Karpov that had took place in one of their games where Kasparov had played knight e5 against Karpov, which actually is a mistake here. Karpov didn't find a refutation at the time, but basically, after c takes d4, c takes d4, bishop a3 is available. The idea is that if, first the obvious move, if b takes a3, then simply queen c3 check. Then let's say after queen d2, then queen takes a1. That's the easy one to spot right away. The second idea is if after c takes d4, bishop b takes a3. If rook takes a3, then you see the bishop on c1 hanging, and there's no real other move to play except bishop d1, and black is pretty much almost winning. Black's just up material without compensation. So Nigel finds an improvement over this move. And again, if this was like today, 95 would have been refuted like the next day or whatever, like soon as the game was published. That's how fast the information is going. So you probably could look in the database. I didn't do it, but you probably could look in the database and find this mistake repeated several times before, the idea kind of caught on, that, hey, that's a mistake. Anyway, so let's go back now. So Nigel, instead of playing knight e5, played the move knight h3 here. Bishop d7 by Gulko. Castles. Bishop comes out to d6. D takes c5. Queen takes c5. Bishop e3 hitting the queen. Queen c7. Again, keep your eye on that b5 and b6 square. B5, the b5 and b6 squares respectively. You can see just the weakness in the position. Black would really love to have that pawn back on a6 there. Bishop d4. And now, now at this point, Gulko probably should have castled. Right, just normal looking move. Instead, he dives in for these complications. Knight g4. Now his idea was to attack h2, and then meet the move bishop g7 with rook g8. So let's say bishop g7, rook g8. With good play. Open g file, and eventually played knight takes g2. If he could move again, of course. Play knight takes g2 and follow up with bishop c6, right? Or meet a move like, for instance, g3. Meet that with e5, and then castle on the queen side. So this is why he's delaying castling. So he has some ideas. It's not, again, a bad plan is better than no plan at all. However, Nigel finds a great move. He just plays knight d2. Alright, and after knight d2, this move just simply is not effective anymore. Okay. After rook fd1, there's no remedy after that. Right. Another move also that shuts the idea down is just bishop takes f6. Excuse me, bishop takes b6. Queen takes b6. And knight c4. Queen c7. Knight takes. Queen takes. Again, rook fd1. And this knight is going, this knight right here is going to be trapped. Queen has to protect herself. And then after, say, like g3, for example, then black has to get desperate and play a move like h4. But even, like I said, even stronger than just bishop takes b6, which works also. Just rook fd1 in the beginning, just getting the rook out of there immediately. And again, let's say castles. Then you play the same line. Bishop takes b6, queen takes, knight c4. All right. So with that, oh, and of course after the most obvious, bishop takes h2, king h1, and let us say let's say h5, right? Trying to protect the knight. F3. Let's say knight f6 here. Then you got the same problem. Bishop takes f6, drawing the queen away from the defense of the h2 square. So basically, black's best course, like if he was to play this line, is to kind of be willing to sacrifice a piece here. And maybe that's a bit unclear. Like for instance, just leave the knight there and castle queenside. All right. That would have been very interesting. But again, you got to understand what type of player Gulko is. Very solid, almost like conservative type of player. So this type of wild, like of course a player like Tao or somebody like that, or Kasparov, even myself. I mean, I would just leave the knight there at this point, because it's too many pieces around the king. But some players aren't, don't play in that type of style. And it could be wrong, that the sacrifice might be wrong ultimately, but it's just one of those things where, sometimes you got to go, stick to your style of play. So, in other words, neither bishop takes h2 or knight h2 really works. So after knight d2. And again, that variation highlighted, again, this weakness left by a5, because in all of these lines, this move comes to the fore. Bishop takes b6, and the queen is forced to capture. If this pawn is on a6, then you just take with the pawn. You see? So that's why you always got to consider those pawn moves, like the ramifications, like weakening squares, because you can't re-strengthen the squares again. You can't put the pawn back. You see the b5 pawn, b5 square, b6 square permanently weakened earlier with this constellation here. And then you see down the road all of the lines favor white, where he can always take on b6 and move the queen away. So this kind of refutes this idea that Gulko had. So after knight d2, he couldn't come up with nothing better than knight f6. Now this is tantamount to just giving an extra move to black, to white. Say here's an extra move. King h1, castles. Bishop takes f6. Now the pawn structure is damaged. G takes f6, and this is Nigel's type of position, right? Open position, open king side, and now he gets to show his tactical abilities. King h7, knight e4. With time and tempo, f5, knight f6 check, king h8. It's too easy. Queen h4. The only way to protect that pawn is by bringing the king to g7. Rook a to d1. Bishop e5. Knight h5 check. King h7. f4. Again, like Nigel, great tactician. So f4, attacking the bishop h8, and then knight g5. Just a crushing victory. If king g3, if king g6, then the rook just comes to f3 with the idea of just moving to the g file. So here, Gulko resigned. So after losing that game in game 2, Short came back with a very strong effort against the Caro-Kann. I mean, Gulko basically made that one error with knight g4, and then back to knight f6, basically losing the tempo, and Short just unleashed a stream of tactics, and swept the old veteran away in that game. So again, that's it for this video, and I will see you on the next game in the match.